There's no going back and rewriting history. However, there are some interesting moments and missed calls in the NBA that have helped shape our favorite league today. Referees are human and will ultimately make wrong calls, but these missed calls affected how we see the NBA today. Here are 4 missed calls that would have rewritten NBA history. Keep watching to see the 4 missed calls and why those calls rewrote history. With the series tied 2-2 in the first round of the NBA playoffs, the Bulls were down 2 with the ball and a chance to either tie the game or win Game 6. The Celtics double-teamed Ben Gordon and left Bulls center Brad Miller wide open for a layup to tie the game. As Miller was going up for the layup, RONDO slapped Miller's face and was called for a common foul. Brad Miller missed the first free throw, then he missed the second, and the Celtics went on to win the game and the series. Miller needed 10 stitches, but there was no flagrant foul called on Rondo, although there should have been. Miller looked dazed at the line, and the Bulls eagerly asked for a flagrant foul. Miller started wobbling to the foul line, while his first free throw fell short. As it would have it, the Bulls would also fall short in the opening round of the playoffs. Maybe Miller should have taken himself out of the game and let someone else shoot his free throws. Rondo hit him in the head, his head coach Vinny Del Negro said, but when you're a big guy, you never let a guard take you out of the game. When Miller asked how he felt at the line, he replied, "Good enough, but I'm not a boxer, so I don't know what it's like to get hit in the face like that." Del Negro agreed that Rondo's slap to the face was a flagrant foul. I thought it was a flagrant. I agree that it is a playoff foul, but you still have to call it, and I'm sure that it will be addressed and they'll take a look at it. Miller was extra talkative after the game was over and didn't sound 100%. Miller decided that he was going to move on and stop arguing to prepare for Game 6. "I ain't going to argue that point," he started to say, after which he proceeded to argue the point. "We've had a lot of guys getting headshots this series, a whole lot of them, and there hasn't been a flagrant. Everybody's had to shake off these high hits that they've been putting on us. That's a good shot to take to the head," he said. "I haven't seen it, but I felt it." Even though Miller missed the free throw looking dazed, he said there was no excuse for that missed free throw. The Bulls watched an 11-point fourth quarter lead whittle away. "The court looked like the Bulls got knocked out. There was blood on the floor," said Miller, who took some stitches in his mouth after the game and may have a loose tooth. "I don't even know if they got it all cleaned up. I didn't know where the hell the ball was. What happened? Nothing. If there was a flagrant called on Rondo, the Bulls likely win Game 5 and hold on to the lead thanks to the extra foul shots. Had the Bulls won that game and also won Game 6, they'd move on to the next round of the playoffs. Instead, the no call on Brad Miller washed away any hope of Derrick Rose winning an NBA championship in his rookie season." It's Memorial Day in 2008 as the Lakers and Spurs play Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals. The Spurs went on their way to an improbable victory, down 93-86 with 50.8 seconds to go. However, the Spurs stormed back and had the ball, down 93-91, with just over 2 seconds to go. Brent received the inbounds pass, pump fake Derek Fisher, got him off his feet, and was presumably fouled by Fisher as he put his shot up. Maybe it wasn't a shooting foul, but it was absolutely a foul on the court before time ran out. Barry was a 95% foul shooter on the season, and would have been able to tie the game at 95 or win it if the refs called continuation. Instead, the game was over. After the game, NBA spokesman Tim Frank broke the news. "With the benefit of instant replay, it appears a foul call should have been made," said a statement by NBA spokesman Tim Frank. If Barry got to the line for 2 foul shots and made both, the Spurs would be going into overtime in a game they hadn't led all night. Instead of the series tied at 2, the Spurs would be trailing 3-1 in the best of 7 series after the heartbreaking loss. Before the statement by the NBA late Wednesday, league spokesman Brian McIntyre said referees Joey Crawford, Joe Forte, and Mark Wunderlich may have been following a league guideline and failing to make a call. "There is an explanation in the rulebook," said McIntyre, "that there are times during games when the degree of certainty necessary to determine a foul involving physical contact is higher. That comes during impact time when the intensity has risen, especially at the end of a game. In other words, if you're going to call something then, be certain." Spurs legendary coach Greg Popovich never heard of this so-called advisory in all his years of dealing with referees. "It's a very strange thing," said Popovich before the statement came out. "If you talk to an official, the official will tell you that the game is called at the end of the game exactly like it is during the meat of the game. That's their story and they're going to stand by it. In reality, personally, I don't think that's true. And I can give 1,000 examples that games are called differently down the stretch where I think most referees feel, and I agree with them, that things need to be more definitive before you're going to make a call. A referee is going to be hesitant to make a call that could decide a game at the end unless it's either really gross or obvious. So that's why I said if I was an official, I would not have called that foul at the end of the game." Norm Nixon, a television analyst at the time, thought Barry didn't act on the foul accordingly to get the call his way. Refs don't like to make that kind of call to decide a game, Nixon said, unless it's a hard foul. As it was, at a time like that in a playoff game, I thought it was a good non-call, Nixon said. Barry should have turned into him and attempted a shot instead of pump faking and dribbling to his right. If he had gone on with the continuation of the play, Nixon said, it would have been an obvious foul and it would have been called. The problem was he dribbled away, then took a shot. If you can create contact, you are going to get the call. Barry could have flopped, but the consensus was that he didn't sell it well enough. When I played and had the ball in a situation like that, Nixon said, I felt the defender was more afraid of me than I was of him. He was not going to foul me and put me on the line, so I felt confident I could get my shot. After the game, Popovich explained that they'll have to move on and focus on the next game. It's a tough loss. The players and the coaches are human, he said. We have to focus on the next game in hopes that we can win that game and survive. If you don't let it go, you can't focus on the task at hand. Of course, the Lakers went on to win the Western Conference Finals and played in the finals against the Boston Celtics. The Spurs had an incredible dynasty with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, and Tony Parker. This call might have stolen another ring for that Spurs team. Just think about that. It's 2002, and the Lakers are playing the Kings in Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals. After the game, every basketball fan agreed that this game was one of the worst officiated games in recent memory. People legitimately thought there was a fix on this game. Of course, ex-referee Tim Donaghy was one of the 3 referees in this game. In all of the games that he might have fixed in the playoffs, the Lakers and Kings series was the only one that went 7 games. The officiating in Game 6 was so questionable that former presidential candidate Ralph Nader called for a formal investigation. The Lakers attempted 40 free throws to the Kings 25 in that game, and Los Angeles made 21 of 27 from the line, while Sacramento converted 7 of 9 in the fourth quarter alone. The foul that was called against Mike Bibby of the Kings after he was shoved and elbowed by Kobe Bryant allowed the Lakers to win that game and eventually go to the finals in 2002. The Lakers won the championship. It could have been the Kings. Also in that game, Kings centers Vlade Divac and Scott Pollard fouled out, and Kings coach Rick Alderman was highly critical of the officiating afterward. Mike Bibby got called for a foul for getting his face in the way of Kobe Bryant's elbow. It was a clear offensive foul that hurt the Kings' chances at winning the game, series, and championship. The Kings have been used to getting screwed over, but this was really bad. The Kings have never won an NBA title in Sacramento. There isn't a sense of entitlement with the fan base. When the Kings lost the series to the Lakers in 2002, they lost to a team that had already won back-to-back championships. After this game, it was pretty realistic to think that the NBA referees needed a complete overhaul. Referees should be going back to school to train on how to be consistent during a basketball game, and maybe even get disciplined. In that game, played in Sacramento, Shaquille O'Neal attempted 18 field goals, most from about 7 inches out, and somehow was awarded 1 free throw. The Kings won that game on a Bibby jumper only after the refs flat out missed a play in which the ball hit off Chris Webber and directly out of bounds. The ball was awarded to Sacramento, making Bibby's heroics possible. It was a terribly officiated series, but if the Kings are given the chance to tie the game or take the lead over the Lakers, the Kings might have won their first NBA championship in Sacramento. Now, almost 20 years later, the Kings are without a championship. The Lakers, on the other hand, have won a couple more. It's the first round of the NBA playoffs, and the Utah Jazz are up 3-1 on the Thunder. Paul George draws a foul against the Jazz, but it's ruled an on-floor foul instead of a shooting foul. George clearly had a continuation in his shot and should have been awarded 3 free throws to tie the game. Instead, the Thunder take the ball from the sideline, miss 6 straight shots when George gets Rudy Gobert to jump on a pump fake. George creates contact and shoots the ball for the foul, except no fouls called. The Thunder would end up losing the game and would go home much earlier than expected in the 2018 playoffs. This call changed the entire landscape of the NBA. The Thunder couldn't come back in the series against the Jazz. If the Thunder caught fire, Oklahoma City could have potentially won another series or two. Instead, the Thunder are without Russell Westbrook and George as the team just couldn't pull it all together in the West.
Got Gobert up in the air, didn't get the foul call.
Oh boy.
He was looking to draw the hit.
You got to foul. You've got to foul.
You got to stop the clock. Engels with the ball.
Head coach Billy Donovan had this to say about the non-call. Gobert clearly ran forward. He clearly banged into him. I don't want to say it ended our season, but I would have liked to have Paul George at the free throw line. Most people probably looking at it would say that it should have been a foul. This shot ended a Thunder dynasty that had Westbrook, Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Paul George within 5 years of each other. Imagine if the Thunder won that game, won their next 2 games, went on a run in the playoffs, and put together a special playoff run. The NBA would be so different today. Those are 4 missed calls that have rewritten the history of the NBA. Whether or not those changes have been for better or for worse, our great game of basketball is constantly evolving. And as fans, we cannot wait to see the game grow and get better over time. Hopefully, they don't make a rule where players can't dunk. That's one rule nobody wants to see. If you enjoyed our video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and press the notification bell if you want to be notified when we post more NBA content.